that we just sort of take this as
one bullet's better than none.
As no big deal.
Yeah.
Speaking of rhetoric, let's take a look at this cartoon that was put out in the Daily Californian, which sounds like a Sunday newspaper, but that's what they published. It's Alan Dershowitz with his head sort of pushed through some sort of wall, and the images that are back there depict stomping on the Palestinian flag and an Israeli soldier shooting an unarmed person. And let's also put up what Alan Dershowitz showed us in terms of what was put up at the university on the bulletin board, where there was a swastika drawn over his face.
But does this crystallize for you something you say in your podcast regularly, that this is an ongoing thing, that it doesn't end?
And down the whole breath is left control.
It never ends. We're in a vortex of stupid, and it's reduced to a black hole of idiocy, and we're never going to escape it now. We're just going to be ceaselessly reliving 2016. Look, President Trump did a couple of things in that Alabama rally. The first thing that he did was he condemned people kneeling during the anthem, which I think is totally fine. The second thing he did, where he called for people to be fired, is not appropriate from a government official. When Hillary Clinton, however, suggests that this is rooted in racism, listen, when I think that President Trump has wrong footing on racial issues, I'm very clear about it, but I don't see the racist intent here. If she's talking about people who are white that Trump has attacked, she could look in the mirror, because Trump does that every single day, and continues to do that nearly a year after the elections. This isn't about race. This is about Trump felt like he had an issue that he got to club, and so he was going to club that issue like a baby seal, and that's essentially what he did in Alabama.
But Richard, one of the things I tried to do today was to take a step back. So I didn't grow up going to football games. We went to rodeos where I grew up in Wyoming, and we always stood with the anthem. And one of the things I've always loved about it was that I always felt sort of like when I was in church, where you have that moment of unity, everybody together, then there's like this common thread, and then maybe afterwards there's a problem. But I try to also be open-minded and look and see, is the original protest, which was about the complaint that Kaepernick had.
Goodbye, shooting range.
And that white officers were being
let
let
off
bullets.
The hook. Thanks for the gun that I'll probably knock you bullets for.
Black, especially children, or youth. And I'm trying to understand, do they see this as a racist attack by President Trump?
What in the goddamn?
They do.
Oh, it's just a graphic glitch. Thought that was a ghost.
A 12-year-old boy in Ohio
gonna get really
drove up and
for a
shot
minute.
him in the face. He had a toy gun. He was 12 years old.
Ghosts.
He was shot in the face. There was no freeze. There was no put your weapon down. He was shot
Just
in
had
the
something
face.
that's not zombies. That'd be
It was
nice.
on tape. Everybody saw
literally
it. The
anything
country
else.
watched in shock and horror. We can talk about Eric Garner. I can go on and on and on. Colin Kaepernick decided to kneel.
Native
and that is
Americans.
were, right? Donald Trump this weekend
All the
took it further.
natives
First,
on
he used
reservations got
inflammatory
put into the
language.
convicts.
No president in American history that I know of, in recent history, since I've been alive, has ever used that type of language. Every American.
Is that gas?
The ideal. The president of the United States should be a role model to every child. Right, I am 30 years old. I wouldn't use that language in front of my
My
mother.
health going down.
My mom's watching tonight, which I won't repeat it. So the fact that the president uses that language is disgusting, right? So then let's move forward. He's saying these individuals should be fired for
more protein.
Their right to protest. They try to make it about the troops.
I'm gonna eat celery.
They've tried to make it about our. They've tried to make it about the anthem. That is not what this protest is about.
I ate celery.
This protest is about racial injustice for people of color in this country, and that is what these athletes are using their platform to do, to protest racial injustice. Muhammad Ali did it. Jackie Robinson did it. Jesse Owens did it. Martin Luther King did it. And when they did it, it was unpopular.
I've got 0% in test volume. What does that mean?
First Amendment right allows us to be unpopular.
Absolutely.
But
here's something that I wonder about then, which is that the original protest from Kaepernick had been.
Did I just go in a circle?
Hey there, Ziggs! We heard you distress beacon and came to save your dumb face from alien monsters. Ah, come on. What's the worst that could...
But it had been sort of dying out. We weren't hearing a lot about it. It wasn't getting picked up by TV.
Actually? Yeah, well, I just went in a giant circle for 5 minutes.
Night, and it became this explosive thing. And the left tends to overreact to President Trump. And then what you get at the end is
yeah,
I think you should stand for the national anthem, and we should probably try to continue to do more to calm racial tensions in the country. But the national anthem doesn't seem to place
I'm on the wall. If I go to the wall,
there's a series of overreactions that happens here. So first of all, just to talk about the underlying issue with regard to police brutality being systemic across the country, and then citing a case like Tamir Rice. Out here in California, there was a white homeless guy named Paulie Thomas who was beat to death on tape, and the officers eventually ended up getting off. Okay, that was not about racism. There is such a thing as police brutality having nothing to do with race. There were some 760 shootings of people
some
by
of the noises
this year, according to the Washington Post. 9 of them
weird.
were of unarmed black people. So the idea that there's this wide spate of these shootings happening across the country
police
is just
brutality
not
is
true.
wrong,
But
no
beyond
matter if it's
that,
black or
the
white.
idea, what basically happened here is that Colin Kaepernick started a protest.
I've now put
It didn't
2
turn into
hours
a movement. It was basically dying out. Most players didn't like it. The vast majority of Americans didn't like it. And then President Trump decided to bring it up again. And then the left reacted, as they always do to President Trump, by falling directly into whatever trap I think he inadvertently set. Trump says, anyone who kneels for the national anthem should be fired. And so now everybody on the left goes, well, then everybody should kneel for the national anthem. They basically react to him the same way that my 3-year-old daughter reacts to me when I'm using reverse psychology on him. It's just not smart. I mean, if you're on the left and you're trying to create a PR movement in favor of this movement, it doesn't seem to me like the smartest way to do that is to create the image of everybody kneeling during the national anthem, and the booing audiences across the country, the booing stadium audiences across the country, seem to be good evidence that this is not a protest movement that is actually gaining steam. It's actually undercutting its own message. If you want to protest perceived police brutality, there are police stations right down the road.
Transport chopper. An agency courier was murdered on the streets of Los Santos. This is probably a setup, but there's still a chance we can get a hold of his package of data. Keep going.
So I understand that you're an adequate opposer.
The other team is following the data. You're following the chopper. We believe it's going to be a deal of some description.
Oh, hey, Andrew, you want to see a video of those fucking tadpoles that I was talking about a while ago?
Yeah. It's en route to 10 to the power of everything decimal points. That's not even over. Clifford, and program. This conspiracy is bigger than any of you could ever conceive. Clifford doesn't know what's going on. He's making 1 million trillion calculations a second, and that number is real. 2 million trillion. Real numbers, not metaphorical ones. I like metaphors about eggs and monkeys. Just stay undercover and follow the chopper to its destination, okay? I also wrote a metaphor about a bear defecating. The answer is they do, unless they are polar bears. Or teddy bears.
If there are 5 of us in a room, and I have $5 and nobody else has any money, and I just give each person $1, then everybody in the room is better off except for me. That's true, but I now have no incentive to go out and make $5 more because you're all just going to take the money. This is true of Social Security also. So Social Security has actually created an enormous downside for society now. So in the short term, it's great, right? You take a bunch of money that doesn't belong to you, you give it to a bunch of old people, they're happy. It didn't cost you that much money because it's the baby boom, and there are a lot of people who are young, and there are not that many people who are old. Then the baby boomers get old, and now we're all screwed, right? People who are our age are never going to see our Social Security money. It's gone. We're never seeing it again. Kiss it goodbye. Right? So
you're getting close to the intercept. Remember, we don't know where this chopper is going. Just keep your cool and follow till it stops.
You may as well spend your money. Somebody else is going to pay for you when you're old. The second thing that happened is people stopped having kids as much. Actually, had a market impact. Jonathan B. Lass at Weekly Standard has a very good book about this.
You could like
had a market impact on birth rates.
Dump salt in there.
It
would been like
cynical about this,
Holocaust.
Is that historically when you get
oh, you mean for the sorry, I was fucking zoning out.
The net cost was that you were going to spend
yeah, probably.
Watch them all die.
I don't want to kill them all. Imagine how many freaking frogs
they
there'll be.
will all grow into frogs.
Yeah.
They will spread their fucking frog gay
genes. I'll put some chemicals in the water.
They'll put chemicals in my ass for turning me gay.
It's also created this immoral notion that the government's going to
keep your eyes on that bird and follow it home.
Society. Social fabric doesn't matter anymore. So this is why I'm not in favor of socialism, you know, and Social Security is a good example. I'm not in favor of it because it has, just like every other socialist program, it has a set of discrete beneficiaries.
Heads up, the paramedic team's blown their cover. This may get a little more complicated.
Discrete beneficiaries, and they grow over.
Installing this
okay,
thing
good work.
you
The
use
chopper is landing.
your mic
Need to know who ordered the hit on that agent. That intel and a whole lot more will be in a briefcase at the meet.
Let's see.
Take out those guards, give the information, and get that chopper too. We need everything.
Organization and the American Psychology Association. Just like gay people don't have a disease. Fact number 2. Rich kids stay rich, poor kids stay poor. Out of 100 billionaires, 12 of them are black. where you come from.
Andrew, if you're talking, I can just hear myself. It's like a faggot.
I would just like to remind you that hate speech is not free speech. And my question is, since facts don't care about your feelings, why did you use false facts?
Okay, so none of the facts that I used are false. First of all, yes. No, okay, first of all, would you like the answer? Okay, so the three facts you mentioned.
Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to set up a voice meter to make your microphone and it's pretty simple. All you have to do is download this program. I will put 8.
I'll put 8.
Again, does not explain why the transgender suicide rate is upward of 40%.
I can't hear you.
The American population is lower than 3%. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, you talked about income inequality, and you suggested that all wealth is inherited. This is nonsense. According to the IRS statistics, if you are born into bottom 20% of wage earners in the United States, you will not be one of the bottom 20% of wage earners in the United States. 90% of people will not be within 15 years. There's tremendous wage mobility in the United States.
Well, that's
America.
fixed.
Plus,
that's not we're doing
there's
that.
not a group of people who just sit at the very top and stay there. People move up and down, in and out of the 1%. 1% just defines the line of income. It doesn't define the people who are in that 1% of income. I've been in the 1%, I've been out of the 1%. It will happen to lots of people. People who are older tend to be more likely to be in the 1%. They weren't once in the 1%. What happened? Okay, so that's number two. Number three, you say hate speech is not free speech. It depends how you define hate speech. The only speech that is not free speech is speech that overtly defends or pushes violence. Specifically, speech that is generating violence, right? That's the only type of speech that's not hate speech. If I say things you don't like, that's not hate speech. And if you think that it is hate speech, you're a fascist. End of story. What I said about income inequality is a few things. Number one, the idea that the people who are very, very rich somehow stole from the people who are very, very poor, and that's why they're very, very rich is stupid. Poor people are poor and don't have lots of money to steal. Okay, so the idea that Bill Gates got rich by ripping off a bunch of homeless people. Homeless people were not buying Microsoft, nor was he going to them, forcing Microsoft on them for them to stick into their boxes. Right? Like, that's not how he got rich. The way you get rich in any free-functioning economy is by participating in an enormous number of voluntary transactions that benefit both sides. You should care about the question of poverty. You shouldn't care about the question of income inequality. You should care about how do we make poor people rich, not how do we make rich people poorer so that everybody's at the same level. Because that's just you being jealous. That's just you not liking the guy's house next door because it's bigger than your house. And look at that, he has a big house, I have a smaller house. Maybe I'll just go rob his place.
I think he died.
That's not moral, and it's not.
No, I think he had to reset his computer because the fucking audio shit fucked it.
The evils of capitalism since 1994.
I don't know about that.
Extreme poverty rate has been sliced in half.
This cat doesn't have a point.
And by
why do you say these things?
I mean, the free markets that are now being bashed left and right, those free markets are the greatest innovation in the history of humanity when it comes to the economy. It's why you have nice stuff. It's why you're not sitting in your backyard right now crafting your own handmade tie.
You wanna 1v1 me in For Honor?
You had to shear yourself. I mean, I thought there's a great thing. I mean, just a little bit of a caveat on trade.
Can you answer my question?
My favorite story of the last few months, there was some guy who decided that he wanted to make himself a BLT.
I don't know, trying to make you better than you are right now.
Right, like from scratch. So he actually went.
Well, you're not very good.
Bought a cow, and then he killed the cow, and he went out and he got a pig.
No.
Like he went out and he got a milk.
So was that a yes or a no?
He grew some wheat and then he milled it, right? This whole thing. It cost him $1,600.
Oh, fucking shoot you.
And it took him 6 months. Right?
With my toes, if you do not fucking answer yes or no.
Freedom of income. And the fact is that when people talk about income inequality, what they're
really wish I was an admin right now.
They think that if there's 2 people in a room, one person with $5, one person with 1, the person with 5 stole from the person.
That's all what I said.
It doesn't ask the question, how did the person get poor? The reality is, if you
fucking just answer the question.
Very, very easy. The Brookings Institute, which is a left-leaning institute.
It's not at all what I asked you to do.
School, don't have babies out of wedlock, get a job. That's it. Those are the 3 things.
You didn't say no!
5% of the people who do things will end up in the middle class.
Fucking nuts.
Just not poor, in the middle class. Only 2% of people who do those 3 things end up permanently poor in the United States.
Don't say that.
So the idea that it's the rich people keeping poor people down and they're doing it for their own pleasure, their own pleasure. Bill Gates says, for sport, he shoots poor people from the balcony of his mansion. It's just, it's asinine in every conceivable way. And it's so funny. I did a debate on National Geographic that never aired. It never aired because of and it was me against 3, which made it almost fair for them. And it was like Van Jones, and I think Van Jones was on the other side, and some professor from NYU, and it was exactly on this topic. And I said to them, "Are you proposing that we actually just kill the rich people and redistribute their money?" And they said no. And I said to them, "Why are you talking about the rich people? What did they do?" And they never answered because they didn't know. They just didn't want to check.
Intel on board. Now get that
the idea that income inequality is correlated in any way with overall poverty is really silly. There are countries with really high income inequality and very low overall poverty.
You got the chopper.
Like the
Now
United
you're
States.
pulling out the other team.
Zero
Go
income
to the pickup
inequality.
point near the coroner's office.
And nobody has anything. Right? So the idea that the differential is the statistic that matters, it doesn't. The fact is, in the United States, 9 out of 10 Americans are living above the global middle
closer to finding out who killed that agent.
And everybody in the United States is
closer to collecting our paychecks.
And that's you want to get rid of the income inequality by destroying now.
Instead of theft related to serious matters of geopolitical stability.
Well, that's his memory.
Last week, John Oliver used his show as a call to arms to support Planned Parenthood. Those Republicans have the House, the Senate, the White House. Do you anticipate pushback within the Republican Party if the pro-life movement tries to move forward with its agenda in the next 2 years?
I mean, this is a really good question. I'm not sure how committed Donald Trump is to, for example, reversing funding for Planned Parenthood, right? He said early in the primaries that he liked Planned Parenthood. He thought that they did some good work. It'll be interesting to see if he clashes with the new Congress over that, because clearly Paul Ryan, a lot of other members of Congress, would like to withdraw federal funding for Planned Parenthood. Obviously, I think that's a good idea. I think abortion is immoral, and the idea that I'm paying for somebody else's baby to be killed seems pretty ridiculous, morally, ethically, legally to me. I think all of it's really dubious. It is definitely questionable. We have a really bad habit in this country of taking everyone seriously if they have a British accent.
I'm sorry.
And that seems to me a bad mistake. We ought to judge John Oliver by the content of his speech, not the quality thereof.
Ends over means. The product is king. Yeah, look, the rendezvous point is some distance away. Expect them to chase, but not forever.
Imagine the responsibility the astronaut shoulder. The years of training. The toll it takes on their families. The personal sacrifices that they've endured. And then they strap themselves to a rocket and they risk their lives. That's 5 people.
I want to shoot my BB gun.
Destiny of 8 billion.
Propel it.
On this week's Lazy Sunday upload is someone I'm sure
you just fucking full on die. What the fuck happened?
Ben Shapiro. Now the following clip is taken from a talk he gave at the University
of Missouri back in
late
mark.
2015.
Question mark?
Now whilst I don't agree with all of Ben's views, particularly when it comes to religion, he is very sharp and consistently wipes the floor with social justice snowflakes. In this clip, he systematically
where have you been?
That oppressive bogeyman, white privilege.
Okay, cool.
Enjoy.
Oh, it's me again.
First of all, let's start with the notion of white privilege. It's become this buzzword that you hear all the time.
Echo!
Is responsible for everything up to and including the Kardashians. It's responsible for everything, white privilege. White privilege is a way to silence anybody who is not of color. That's what white privilege is. It is just a leftist bullshit term that means shut up because you are not a member of a minority group, a privileged minority group in the leftist space. It's reverse racism of the highest order. You're basically saying to white people who aren't racist, and you can't find any proof of their racism, that they must be racist because they're white. That is called racism. If you are accusing somebody of something simply because of the color of their skin without any evidence, that's called racism. But you don't have to trust me. Let's go through what other people say the definition of white privilege is. Folks on the left, what do they say that white privilege is? Well, here's the definition of white privilege from the Southern Poverty Law Center. There's a book that I'm sure was just a massive bestseller in its day called White Anti-Racist Activism, A Personal Roadmap. And the only person who bought it was the author, Jennifer Holliday's mother. But apparently, her mother works for the Southern Poverty Law Center because here is the definition of white privilege that they quote over at the SPLC. For people who don't know, the SPLC is an extraordinarily far-left organization that pushes the notion that basically anybody who is conservative and on the right side of the aisle must be a member of a hate group. So here is their definition of white privilege. Quote, White skin privilege is not something that white people necessarily do, create, or enjoy on purpose. Unlike the more overt individual and institutional manifestations of racism, white skin privilege is a transparent preference for whiteness that saturates our society. White skin privilege serves several functions. First, it provides white people with perks we do not earn and that people of color do not enjoy. Second, it creates real advantages for us. White people are immune to a lot of challenges. And finally, white privilege shapes the world in which we live, the way we navigate and interact with one another and with the world. And when my daughter spits up, she's 22 months old.
Wait, you don't even have me on Steam, do you?
So let's talk about the perks.
What's your fucking name then?
Let's talk about the perks that white privilege supposedly confers upon you. She says,
I have like 100 games.
That perks that are conferred upon you by white privilege include things like when
I'm looking at your game, the aisle.
You get a Band-Aid,
more like
the
the
Band-Aid is your
stupid.
skin tone. Seriously is what she says.
Tom Clancy Rainbow Six Siege more like
for those who live in the real
fucking
world, this is
dumb.
also called the free market because most of the people in the country happen to have a lighter shade of
Counter-Strike more like
skin.
counter.
Sell more Band-Aids
Fuck.
than you're going to market to the group of people who buy
Grand
more
Theft
Band-Aids.
Auto 5
this
more
is white
like
skin privilege. Another example she uses,
stupid game.
She says that if you go to a hotel, that the hotel
Primal
shampoo
Carnage
works better with your hair.
Extinction more like
I don't know how she
your mom.
scientifically tested this, but in any case, this is again.
I know.
If this is as far as white skin privilege goes, I can tell you nobody should use hotel shampoo.
All your games are
because it's gross.
gay and stinky.
And then she talks about the real advantages that are conferred upon you by white skin privilege.
Seems like 90% of your games are just first
This is where we really
person.
get to the meat of the matter. She says those advantages include skin color, quote, not working against me in terms of how people
preferences are
perceive
gay.
my financial responsibility, style of dress, public speaking skills, or job performance, as well as people
my preferences
not
lately have
where I am
included
professionally because of my
strategy
race,
games and
store
fighting
security
games, and that's
personnel
pretty
or
much
law
it.
enforcement officers do not harass me, pull me over, or follow me because of my race. This is
Not
the
the same
argument.
thing.
America is a deeply racist country that is imbued with this white skin privilege, and that if you are black, you can never overcome this white skin privilege because you
Your
live in
mom.
a deeply racist system that has been created by Western civilization.
A point and click adventure is like the very broken down version of FPS. The same way, okay. An FPS is an extremely advanced point and click adventure.
I don't care about this. Like, to make perfectly clear, I care nothing about your future.
And then strategy is a very advanced version of puzzle games, or just a puzzle.
Your subjective emotions. I don't want to hear about your heart.
Yeah, but that's like also like saying the FPS is just point and shoot, or not point and shoot, but like point. God, what the fuck are they called? I just said it. Point and click adventure games, whatever. That.
First of all, statistical disparity does not necessarily mean discrimination.
Store preferences.
The first thing you need to know, anybody who's ever been in a statistics class knows this is true.
Mature content, include files, sorry, fun content. Yeah, I want adult-only sexual content, what the fuck?
Statistical disparity does not always mean discrimination. The vast majority of people playing in the NBA are black. Very few of them are 5'9".
I don't give a dang. Fuck
That
you.
is not because there is some sort of anti-Semitic conspiracy to keep 5'9" dudes out of the National Basketball Association. I can't complain that I don't play for the Los Angeles Lakers. Right? This is because the reality is that
don't talk to me.
it tends to be general principle meritocracy rules that scrutinize
That's making
NBA,
sense.
the certainly true on college campuses. Let's go through some of the accusations that have been made about white skin privilege. The financial responsibility. In this particular author, she said that one of the things that works against you if you're black in the United States is how people perceive your capitalism
Booty
seriously doesn't care about your
calls.
color, it doesn't care about your race, it doesn't
Are
care
porn
about
games
your
little now?
In fact, capitalism is the single best way to overcome racism and sexism and bigotry and homophobia.
Let's
because
see.
if you decide to be any of these six
Page.
racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe.
Sorry, we're not
Score
ready
a lot, and
to
you will take
kill
all
the
of that money
what?
from you.
Retry.
You will be outcompeted. This is the beautiful thing about capitalism. Your advantage in the marketplace
And
is
well, I was
catering
born
to as many
July
people as
9,
possible and to hiring the best people
18.
possible. But the usual statistics
Oh,
that
this
are
is
thrown
bizarre.
out
Are they hiding the porn games now? What the
lenders
fuck?
systemically or systematically rather discriminating against qualified black borrowers.
Why are they hiding the porn games? I'm very angry.
Go bankrupt, of course, because there would be other banks that came
I want the goddamn porn
spend money
games.
on black borrowers, and those people would pay back their loans, and these banks would be able to make a mint off borrowers. In fact, it turns out that according to a University of Iowa sociologist, Sarah Hartman,
what about the other point? Hard work.
And white women
one of them.
for some reason.
They're all fucking anime.
At all.
Hard.
Right, because her statistical size is not big enough. And what she came up with was that black women were
I can
at the same rate
take on the role of Mr. Gary Stewart, aka the Man, a skilled veteran sexual counselor, but not in the traditional way.
With a grain of salt, but I will tell you one area in which there was discrimination, and that is the widespread perception that black people were not getting loans led the federal government to create a subprime lending program specifically designated
browsing nudity,
minority ethnic status
Putin,
into
boobs,
homes
and
that could
Trump.
not afford with bad credit. Okay, if it had all been lending discrimination, you would have assumed that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac would have been fine. There would never have been a subprime mortgage crisis. In 1995, President Clinton's Housing and Urban Development agreed to let Fannie and Freddie get affordable housing credit for buying subprime security, especially particularly borrowing.
I don't know which of two is under this. Why? Oh, because that one's sex scene.
By the way, there are laws on the books in the United States that if you can do discrimination in lending, you can sue the hell out of
Escape from Pleasure Planet.
banks have had to settle based on historic discrimination. Nothing I'm saying here says discrimination has never existed.
There is a place where people go to play. People go to Lowe's. What is this?
This is not. There's no white privilege in regards to style of dress. Because here's the reality. If you sag your pants, and somebody says you pull up your pants and you're white, if you sag your pants and you're black, and somebody says you pull up your pants, you'll be called a racist. Right? This is actually happening. David Stern, if you remember, head of the NBA, he was actually implied and actually blown up tank is homeless as useful to them as a working one, so get out of there. It turned out that everybody eventually took him up on that, and now NBA players are the best dressed people on planet Earth. But the fact is, that style of dress is not an aspect of white privilege. Public speaking skills. They say, well, you know, when it comes to public speaking skills,
Bathe the horse.
President Obama is not
What is this game? This is very bizarre.
President Obama is not more articulate than Don
Edwards. This is listed as nudity, adventure, and point and click.
President Obama was the greatest leader in the history of the world. Part of that was because
recommended.
He did.
I don't want to pay that much money for a fucking porn game.
When he's off telephone, you break the rules.
I don't pay any money for hentai space. Whoa, you saw puzzles, get hentai pictures that you could just like look up on your own. That sounds really cool.
That bar discrimination based on race and hiring. There's already a federal employment opportunity.
Boobs puzzle. Oh, it's like the same thing, only not? Wow, it's Candy Crush for titties. You're sad.
Discrimination against people of color. That is not white privilege. That is the government going out of its way to fight individual racism. In some cases, go beyond the evidence in order to demonstrate racism. The idea that, especially on college campus,
it's all in Japanese, I don't understand it. Fuck this. I hate Japanese.
Really talk to the Asian guy about 230 black minority in really tell me about what the fact is that Roman back
just playing against an AI, yeah, dude. That is funny. That is like that other game with the AI. You know the one. The one. Hentai-Girl. Now that, it looks at it. Wow, it's a... same shit. Anything interesting? Girls Dance VR.
Racial profiling in crime.
It looks really poorly made.
Keep hearing that white officers shoot black for no reason whatsoever. This is
their fucking waist looks like they can't hold a friggin'.
More important, blacks are more likely to kill whites than but police are less likely to kill black people in the same circumstances.
I like big girls, so I can't relate. Fatty. Dead Frontier 2. Deadly Curse. Hentai Square. Wow, that sounds like a very interesting game.
significantly higher than the murder rate in the white community.
Wild Animal Sports Day. Why is this in the adult section? What the fuck is this?
How about racial profiling and speeding? Get this one off. Driving while black.
Oh, it's psychological horror.
There's a big hubbub, there's a settlement expert in the state of New Jersey, accused of discriminating against black drivers. Black drivers saying pulled over for no apparent reason. Well, the Department of Justice and New Jersey Attorney General commissioned a study. And they clocked the speed for all the drivers. Typically, means everybody drives the same speed regardless of where. Again, evidence of problem. They actually went ahead and they looked at how people drive in New Jersey. Turns out black people spend a proportion of it. Blacks are 25% of all people.
For the first time ever, I am
the idea that just because there's disproportionality, that is evidence for racism. It's just not. How about sentencing disparity? I mean, as long as we're myth-busting all of this, how about sentencing disparity? This idea out there, black people and white people commit the same crime.
It's positive. Which means there's something to it.
Particularly, people like to cite the disparity between crack and powder cocaine sentences. Okay, the fact is that the reason that there is a disparity between crack and powder cocaine sentences is because it is easier to distribute crack, and it is easier to sell crack, and it is easier for people to get high off of crack. And the people who are the moving forces behind the crack powder cocaine disparity were black legislators in inner cities who didn't want people selling crack cocaine in their communities. A majority of black legislators voted in favor of racial disparities in terms of crack versus powder cocaine. As early as 1990,
I feel like they went to fucking Sonic and Mario at the games and just said, yeah, let's do that, but, you know, with animals that have no quality to them. This is really bizarre.
One of the biggest problems plaguing black communities right now is under-policing, not over-policing. It's not finding people who kill people and putting them in jail. It's not finding serious criminals and putting them in jail. There's a great book called Ghettocide by a very leftist journalist named Jill Levy. She talks specifically about this. She says that one of the things that is necessary if you want a better lifestyle in inner city black communities is more law enforcement. You need people to feel protected. The reason people aren't investing in Ferguson, Missouri has nothing to do with racism.
Or the psychological
they don't want to have their store burned down. If you are worried about the property crime rates in an area, you're not going to invest in that area. You want to build up those areas. You need more cops, not less, so stop bashing the cops. Okay, poverty. The idea is that blacks in America are more impoverished than whites because of systemic racism. Okay, according to the Brookings Institute, which is a very left institute, the Brookings Institute has found that if you want to not be permanently poor in the United States, it's actually very easy. It's a wonderful country. If you don't want to be permanently poor in the United States, you need to do 3 things. Finish high school, get a job, don't get pregnant before you get married.
Oh, I understand.
Seriously, if you do those 3 things,
okay, it's the same guy who made like that
would you like to know why there's a disproportionate
that racing game. It's really shitty. But people tagged all his shit wrong. So he has sexual content, psychological horror under his game, as well as nudity, memes, anime, gore, FPS, Cold War.
We're going to argue that racism in the United States has more than tripled in the same period of time that the civil rights movement had its great successes.
But he has 95% positive reviews.
And again, there's not a white person anywhere that is forcing a black person to sleep with a black person, conceive a child, and then not get married. It's not happening. There's not a single place this is happening anywhere in the United States. People, and this is true for by the way, white people who are lower, it's true across races. It's not just a race-specific thing. Poor white people are people who are having kids out of wedlock and not finishing high school and not getting a job, right? It's true for everyone. The fact that it's disproportionate in the black community doesn't mean that whites are racist. It means that something needs to change inside the black community and people need to start taking personal responsibility. I know these words are out of style. Personal responsibility for the stuff that you do. It is your life. Make something. So, here's the deal with white privilege. Because white privilege always assumes racism without evidence, always assumes racism without evidence.
Is this a furry one?
When there is no racism, they simply make up the evidence with regard to white privilege. So here at Mizzou,
it is
evidence of white privilege. They can't find evidence of white
based
privilege.
around furry dads.
So what they do is they just make it up. Right? They make up stories
sexual
about
content, nudity.
Swastika, which I'm Jewish. Okay, swastikas aren't aimed at black people. Okay, a poop swastika in a bathroom somewhere, this is somehow evidence of a grand racist conspiracy led by Tim Wolf.
Ow.
Right?
What the fuck is wrong with my ear? Jesus Christ.
I wasn't aware that Tim Wolf scrawls poop swastikas in his spare time. Right? When it comes to stories like Jonathan Butler's story about how he was hit by the president's car, he was hit by Tim Wolf's car. If you watch the tape, he was not hit by Tim Wolf's car. There's a thing called video, gang. You should use it.
Oh boy, but that's one of these
He jumps
games.
in front of the car and steps into the car. Okay, he acts like your kid act, or you used to act when you were a kid and you didn't want to get in trouble for hitting your sibling, so you took your sibling's hand and hit them in the face and said, "Stop hitting yourself." Okay, that's what Jonathan Butler did, and then he claimed that he was a victim of systemic racism thanks to this, and then went on a hunger strike, the answer to which should have been, okay, so starve. If you don't want to eat, it's a free country, gang, and if you don't want to eat, it's your own damn problem. And they make up evidence with regard to things like Michael Brown. Hey, we're still hearing that. We heard that here on this campus, that this whole big movement here sprang from what happened in Ferguson. Never have I ever heard a better example of how bullshit in one place turns into bullshit in another place. Okay, Michael Brown was a bullshit story from the absolute beginning to the absolute end. Eric Holder's racist Department of Justice found that the shooting of Michael Brown was entirely justified.
These all like monsters that can
Michael
fuck the
of
girl.
gentle giantedness.
Yeah, they can.
He was a
Called
criminal. He strong-arm robbed a convenience store. He punched a cop. He tried to grab the cop's gun. The gun went off. He then tried to charge the cop according to the testimony of black witnesses in Ferguson. That is why the grand jury did not go forward. So, but again, if you believe in white privilege and you can't find the evidence, then you just make
I mean,
up
the gameplay actually seems solid.
This is also true, by the way, with regard to the grand crusade that surrounded St. Trayvon of the Blessed Hoodie.
It's like a
right? The fact is,
side-scrolling fighting
was
game.
sitting on top of George Zimmerman by witness testimony and physical evidence, sitting on top of him, banging his head into the ground, breaking his nose, and then George Zimmerman shot him. It's all there. It was all there when they did the trial. But
it's not hard to
into
believe.
another instance of racist white Hispanic people. Because George
He has
Zimmerman was
huge
actually
tits.
Hispanic, but he's the first white Hispanic in history, just like Barack Obama is our first white black president because he was half black.
And also,
half
she
white.
wears like a
George
white
Zimmerman turned into a
cloth
white
that doesn't really
Hispanic, the
cover
only one that has ever been.
her nips.
He's like he's an endangered species wandering the plains.
It's unholy disaster.
When you make up your own evidence, and when you don't have the evidence to back what you're saying, then we end up in this bizarre space. This bizarre space where your own...
Make sure you have your fucking mature content thing checked.
I may not have the evidence to back it up. I may not have filed a police report. Right? I may not really know that the KKK is wandering around on Mizzou's campus. Right? I may not know it.
Did you find it?
I don't know, but I feel it deep in my bones. I feel like they're reenacting.
And like it has like weird capitalization and shit.
Deep in my
Yeah.
bones, they're truly and absolutely reenacting Birth of a Nation out there on the quad. That's
Yeah,
what they're
it's
doing.
porn.
And it doesn't have to be the truth. It just has to be my truth. It's just my truth. Okay, folks, there's another name for your
God,
truth.
well, tell me how it is if you actually buy it.
The fact is that there is something called truth and there is something called not truth. Okay, there is no such thing as your
It actually looks well made
your truth and you
for a
have no
fucking
evidence
porn
to back it up.
game.
It is not the truth. It is your feelings. And as I already said, going back 10 minutes,
$13
I don't care
though.
about your feelings.
That's a little much.
Your feelings are unimportant.
Yeah.
To mature people, the subjective feelings of others are only important if you're married to them. Okay, facts.
It's better than murder
don't care
miners.
about
Fuck
your
you.
feelings.
The fuck?
So,
How dare
now
you?
the left...
100, it's a billion%. Wait, one friend wants this game. It's fucking you, isn't it? Fuck off.
They're on the side of a lot of these protesters when it comes to tearing down basic truths about Western civilization. Western civilization to a lot of these administrators.
How many achievements are there?
Who cave to all of this.
Non-scale figure straight or fish
the
tutorial. Kill 100 enemies, finish Violet Forest.
Cowardice is definitely a plausible explanation for a lot of these folks.
Jesus.
Because they're not used to being assaulted this way on a rhetorical level. But there is also a good argument with this leftist agenda, this world-changing agenda. These were all the people who protested in the 60s and took over the buildings, and now their grandchildren are eating them. And so they're siding with the protesters because they feel like they're part of the movement.
Only 0.1% of the people who
ends
played
up
this
eating
about.
the fathers of the revolution.
Fucking 14% of the people that bought this thing didn't beat the tutorial.
And the foundations of the country, are bad, and they
Yeah, I think they were just getting raped by Monster Tutorial and said, yeah, that's what I want to jerk off
tears
to.
down basic principles, including free speech, including innocence until proven guilty.